Looks like
that's not perfect.
so
sorry.
thank you so much. No,
I don't actually know how.
Yeah, we're in a good shape.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Sorry, we have I don't know where it comes
Is
from.
anybody not muted on their laptop or device?
We haven't,
Okay.
and these two are the one.
And I muted.
Or device. Okay, there you go.
Are we good?
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you for bearing with us, and thank you everyone who is coming. I know we're 4 minutes late, but that's not the end of the world. Good afternoon. Welcome everyone, both here in the room with us and also those who are joining online. Today we are launching a very timely, important report titled, "You Will Have to Draw Pictures to Describe Us, the Genocidal Process and the Plight of Myanmar's Muslims, a comprehensive Burma Human Rights Network report exposing decades of state-engineered persecution against Muslim minorities across Burma." And the report spans decades of systematic persecution and also examines the current acceleration of these policies under the military junta. And the launch will feature experts' presentation followed by audience questions in both in-person and also online format. And with that, I'd like to urge friends and colleagues who join in online to type in your question in the chat box, and we will try and monitor and answer as many questions as we can. But also, if we cannot get to all the questions, we will take into consideration trying to answer it later. And with that, I'd like to introduce our moderator and panel speakers today. Our moderator today, Rachel Fried, is a human rights lawyer and social justice advocate who served as the vice president at and the chief program officer at the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. She leads the organization's human rights initiatives and crisis response work, focusing on supporting marginalized communities affected by forced migration, conflict, genocide, and also climate change. And here we also have Dr. Ashley Green, who is the author of this timely report. She is an assistant professor of Holocaust and genocide studies at Keene State College, and she holds a joint PhD in peace studies and history from the University of Notre Dame. Her research focuses on genocide prevention, 20th century African modern slavery, and also education in conflict zone. She received the Dan David Prize for her work on history education in Uganda, and also she is a Boren Fellowship recipient. And here we also have Ko Jo-win, who is the founder of BHRN that was founded in 2012. She's serving as an executive director. And the organization has been documenting different kinds of human rights violations, but this one is focusing mainly on the Muslim minorities, religious persecution across Burma. And we also have Go Tonkin, who is a Rohingya brother who was born in Rakhine State and also being subjected by the 1982 citizenship law. And he is the president and of the Burmese Rohingya organization based in UK. And he has been working on Rohingya issues along with advocating on behalf of other ethnic minorities, speaking to the US Congress, the British Parliament, EU Parliament, you name it, he did it, he does it. So with that, I'd like to pass on to our moderator to take over.
Thank you, Myra. Thank you all for coming for this really critical conversation today. As you may be following, world leaders met earlier this week in New York on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly for the high-level meeting on the genocide of the Rohingya. And I think what's really important and critical at this time is to highlight the fact that there is a lesser-known genocide in progress, and that is the situation of the Muslim minority community in Burma. And so this report that has been put together over the last 5 years is very significant, as it is the first comprehensive documentation of the broader genocidal process beyond the widely known Rohingya persecution, and is important for us to understand the intentions of the military and the long decades of repression. In this report, you will see and start to understand the conflation of race, gender, and identity that has led to the racialization of the Islamic identity that leaves no space for the Muslim community. The way that people have been othered, treated as foreigners, and the way that fear has been manufactured to turn people against the Muslim community, and the way that the government and the military has created this existential threat. And this is critically important as the junta starts to seek legitimacy, and as we think about ways to confront the genocidal process. In order to understand that, I'm just going to share one quick quote. It's from a 2008 booklet published by the Tatmadaw, the Burmese military, as a way to protect against the extinction of the race. And this quote says, "Whereas the British destroyed the great tree called the Myanmar nation, they could not destroy the roots of the Myanmar race. Muslims are like worms destroying the roots of the Myanmar race in the underground. If the roots of the Myanmar race are destroyed because they do not protect themselves from being eaten by these insects, the great tree called the Myanmar nation will automatically collapse. The time, the fall, will never be revived, and is an internal collapse and death. We must do whatever is necessary for the Myanmar race and nation to survive as long as the world exists. Everything that should be must be done." And that's the end of the quote. And we are the additional importance of this moment, if you think about that quote, which was published in 2008, and where we are today, is that we are at the 8th step of genocide in this moment, which has been clearly documented in this important research. And with the upcoming elections, we must know and ask the international community what they can do. This report documents the systemic pattern, classification, discrimination, and propaganda that has been used throughout many crises, including the 1988 uprisings, the 2007 Saffron Revolution, and Cyclone Nargis. And the international community must move from documentation to action. I want to give one more quote that came from the report, and that is from the Muslim minority people. It says, "You will have to draw pictures to describe us." We have an obligation to make sure that that doesn't happen. To start us off today, I want to ask Xiaowin. I know that you've spent 5 years systematically documenting this persecution against 6 Muslim ethnic groups across Burma, revealing that these genocidal policies are embedded in the military doctrine spreading from 1962 to the present. What does the systematic decades-long pattern tell us about the nature of state-sponsored persecution in Burma? Why is this report significant for the world, and how they understand the situation facing Muslim minorities?
Thank you, Rachel, and hello everyone, and joining in person and online, that I really appreciate for your time. Just without wasting my time, and just jumping to the report. This report clearly clarifies one of the major misunderstandings in Burma when it comes to Muslim community. Majority in the world today think that only the Rohingyas are Muslim in Burma. That's one of the biggest misunderstandings. Rohingyas, and then there are different ethnic groups Muslim groups have exist. At the same time, Muslim also exist in other ethnic groups as well, like Kareens, Shan, Kachin. There are many Muslim populations among them as well. So this report is actually take more than 5 years, but all systematically when we systematic by and guided by Dr. Ashley Green, and so we call it as a 5 years. So this report actually mainly depend on two things. One is the research and interviews and on the ground work, and also secondary resource like the booklets which earlier Rachel said. Those two booklets come out in the 1989 and 2008. So what is the significant these 2 years is because after the 1988 national uprising, after 1 year, this report came out. That booklet came out. That booklet is talk about how Muslims are dangerous. So creating a new target for the public rather than the military, we should target those Muslims. So that's kind of creating new scapegoat for the country. The same thing happened in 2008 after the 2007 Saffron Revolution. So that booklet came out, and that booklet is more dangerous than previous one because that gives 17 stages to eliminate Muslims. So when we have discussed with the doctor, we show this booklet and we have to translate all this book, and it's very costly as well for us. And then when we showed this booklet to Dr. Green, so she explained us that according to Dr. Nicholas Tendon, there are 10 stages of genocide, where Rohingyas has completed all 10 stages. They have gone through every stages of genocide. The other Muslim groups are now in stage 8, where the total extinctions and the denial will repeat again. So these are the reality what we see there. When it comes to the Muslim population in Burma, we have first we have Mati Muslim populations. These are one of the largest population among Muslim community. The second is the Rohingya, and then Pashu is the Malay Muslim in the southern Burma, and Panji is a Chinese Muslim in the north. And Nidu Muslim, we call these North Indians, where during the monarchy of Burma, they were prisoners of war from India. And then last is Kaman. Kaman is also in the Rakhine state they live in. So, Burmese Muslim community, can I put slides?
I think you can share your screen, put away. Can you?
I need to do this.
Oh,
I think I sent you the PowerPoint.
it's on my other computer, and that one doesn't work. I'm really sorry.
No, I think you need to, because all the things are. So, yes, so that. Can I forward it now?
Can you please come? Kujo, I'm a little bit worried that we're going to mess up everything right now.
So the Muslim population is, Burma population is 55 million in Burma, and the Muslim population from 10 to 15%. Is it possible? Can I join the Zoom?
You can, but I cannot help you right now because of we're in the process.
There is no way to show the presentation.
I honestly don't really know.
So the population is we have put on the, please download the report on the website. It's already on now. So there we have shown the map, the Muslim population, exactly where locations are. And this is the process. The beginning of the process started in 1962 after the General Nevin took power. So he implemented the state policies, one after another, that target the Muslim population particularly. So Muslim population, it doesn't talk about only Rohingya, including Rohingya, every Muslim, but Rohingya have faced severe persecution because of their geographical location. It's very easy for the military to target them, and there's a border area for them to push them, and then the Rakhine community also being, what we say that Rakhine community and Rohingyas were once they are side by side, but the division has been created within the state policies. One put the Rohingya as the enemy of the Buddhist culture and the Burma. So that's how and then I will come back to the. Unfortunately, I cannot show you the slide, but in the book there is you can see that how we translated the slide training center from the Burmese military regime. They are giving
Email it.
already.
You already emailed it, thank you.
So we have translated those slides, like giving the military training center how the Muslims are dangerous. The way they explain it, Burma located in between the China and India, large population, but they are culturally friendly with us. But the Bangladesh is the main target because they are Muslims. The way they portray Islam and Muslim as a threat, as a danger, which backed by the fabricated information, like Indonesia was a Buddhist country, they killed millions of Buddhists and become Muslim country. That kind of fabricated, that's not true. So they fool the people and giving them wrong information. So the state policies has started working, and the main architect of the foundation for the genocide for Rohingyas and Muslims is 1982 citizenship law. This law gives the authority the power to target Muslim community. So before going to that, in 1969, the Burmese government established a training center for the government employees. This employee center trained the government employees, giving them the idea that how the Muslims are dangerous. You have to target the Muslims. You cannot do this or do that. So most of the people who went there, are immigration officers, teachers, and all the bureaucrats. So we see very strong anti-Muslim presence whenever we go to any government offices. They hate to see our face. That's the outcome of the training they've been going through. And the state policies has been one after another coming up after that. So in 1980s, since 1980s, there is no Muslim in the military. Same time, no Muslim in the police as well since 1980s. And no Muslim in any high office. So those who have in the very high-ranking officers, they were giving offer whether they want to change their religion to Buddhism. Otherwise, they will be resigned or they will not going to offer the high positions. And then we have also in the booklet we showed the one government obtained one evidence from the government internal documents, which giving instruction to the administration that Muslims should not be appointed in any position in the government structure. So even the local administrations, Muslims are not allowed to be appointed. So that's how the very rigid and very deep down, discrimination is going on. And then in 2014, there was a consensus report came out. And when we've been tracing that consensus report, every township, there are 325 townships in Burma. Each and every township has described the population. In the book also you can see that in the report. For example, I come from the Baden township in central Burma. It shows that Muslim populations are 14,000 and something. And the foreigner population is in 19,000. Right? So the way they try to show is Muslim equal to foreigners. Every area, wherever Muslim, for example, in Tandwe, there is a Taman population, large number of Taman population. So all the Taman population equal to foreigners. But even though they are recognized as ethnic of Burma, being a Muslim, they've been put into that category. So the system is creating othering for the Muslim community as they are the threat. They are the one who shouldn't be part of our society. So this has been, and citizenship law is it is funny, but it's not funny for us. But for example, if I'm a Buddhist today, I can be described as a Burma in my citizenship card. But tomorrow, if I convert to Islam, I have to sign a paper that my previous ethnicity was a mistake, and my new ethnicity will be determined by the immigration officer. So if I'll be very dangerous if they put Bengali in my ethnicity. So That means I have to go through so much difficult process when I to get citizenship. So we have conducted so many discussions with the young Muslim youth groups, those who are unemployed, even though they graduated. So the reason we found that, because they don't have citizenship card, they don't get the graduate paper properly. They did that degree, they went to their school, but they will not officially get the degree, so they will not get the job. So they have to survive in a low-paid job. This citizenship system has systematically created vulnerable to the Muslim community. And another one is a drug addiction. Since 2010, like other ethnic minorities, the Burmese military has been proposed for using that drug as a weapon to destroy the Muslim community. So the way they do is they are trapping some Muslim young people and giving them that, okay, we give you, we'll release you, but you have to walk certain area, you have to distribute drugs among your community, and then we will protect you. The day they deny to do this, then they will go back to the jail or they will trouble in somewhere. And right now, a very large number of Muslim population in so many areas have drug addiction. And that's a youth as well. And even our age range is from youth to 60 years old. And we have went to see some people who has been tied by their mom and their family members. And the person who also said that, please tie me. I don't want to kill my mother because she's not going to give me money for drugs, so I don't want to kill her. So that's the situation, the families and everything social is destroyed in many areas, but that's not been reported. It's very underreported.
So we have a slide. Which one you want to go to?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Finally made it. So this is a population slide, which I was saying earlier. The green, the dark green is the Rohingya populations. And all the green, the darker, the greener is the larger population. If you look at the southern part, that's the Malay Muslim population living there. They have been living there centuries. And you can see that upper there, in the Karbon state, that's also a very large number of Muslim population living there. So these are all the Muslim populations. It's not just 2, 3, 4%. It's more than 10% are living. And these data, we only base on the data military, the junta, the Tenzin government at that time announced that the population number, that data. So we are not using different data. I mean, that data is a very minimum data, which is, we know that lied about our populations.
Next.
Yes, please. And go next. And next, please.
Next.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, keep going.
Next.
Yes, this one. So this is the letter. Internally, we obtained this letter from the government. They are giving order to the internally that Muslims are not allowed, should be appointed in any place in the government. So now, next one.
Next.
Yeah, next. This one is where the government employees are giving training for anti-Muslim ideologies by the state. Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, next. This is another one. You can see the star here. This is the NAPIDO, the Central Command Center, the military regime, the Central Command Center. And this was reported in Al Jazeera in 2013 as well. So that slide has been translated there. So this is clearly spell out how the Muslims are dangerous, and giving the idea to the military commanders and high-ranking officers, to giving them an idea that how these Muslims need to be eliminated, and that kind of, that's one of the evidence for the genocide we consider. And another slide.
Next.
Yeah, next. And I'm not going to detail reading it, and you can have a read and you can find out so many interesting parts there. Yeah, please.
Next, please.
Yeah, next.
Next.
Yeah. Another one. This is the population chart. We have we've been showing that Muslim population equal to foreigners. If you don't have citizenship, that means you don't exist. You cannot buy anything. You cannot own anything. So our economical situation, our employability, our healthcare, everything will be finished without having citizenships. So that is the way they are heading to, that Muslim must be foreigners. And they have created one new group that from after 1962 with the 1982 citizenship law, that's a mixed blood group. The mixed blood group means they are not purely Burma, they are all mixed. So that means we are not pure. It's very similar sound you may have heard about during World War II, like Nazi, that kind of idea here. So they try to impose those more restrictions to getting citizenship, to getting more passport, to getting a passport. So people who are fall into that category, we take months of time to get the passport, or then many years. Sometimes they don't even get the citizenship. Yeah, please.
That's
Next.
oh, next, please.
After 2015, this whole law has came to exist. So many months of years of since 2012 until 2015, there was a series of anti-Muslim persecution happened. And these anti-Muslim persecutions are not only targeted the Rohingyas, it also targeted the Burmese Muslim community in many areas as well. So after that, the very strong movement from the 969s and Babatais came exist, and they come up with the 4 laws targeting Muslims. You cannot marry more than one, and you cannot have more than 2 child. There are so many restrictions have been imposed, but until today, even this law not been abolished during the NLD government as well. That law will continue. Yeah, please. Yeah, not another. And the drug addiction, we said earlier, the way the drug addiction is, they have introduced already with the Karen communities, Shan community, and Kachin community. They use drug as a weapon to destroy the community, and that until today is going on. Next. So this is the 10 stages of genocide we are talking about. In this report, Dr. Green will be explaining you more in detail because she is the one who expert and who helped us to understand all this. I will quickly go to another one. This is the next one. This is the place Muslims are not allowed to go. That we started in 2015 when the NLD government came to exist. All the Buddhist majority towns and cities has come to expose that we are not allowed. We don't want to allow any Muslim to come to our village or live or cross or enter. So they come up with the law, 4 guiding law every township, cities or village or towns. So they until today they don't. But when we published the report, when we exposed that to the international community, the NLD government went there, asking them do not put signposts, but you can still practice them. So that was the situation with the NLD government, and until now, this kind of ideology still exists in Burma. They be proud. Our city, our town, our village is without any Muslims. Yeah, please. So this is the town in Sagaing, in northern Burma. The picture from the up was 2022 January we took from satellite, and the another one is 2023 January we took the picture. So this town has been wiped out and been attacked 3 times as an attack by the military to wipe out all the Muslim villages, Muslim houses in there. Yeah, another one. Next one.
Next, please.
This is also another town in the southern Burma, Karen state. We call it Cochrane Township, where there is no military war going on. They intentionally targeted Muslim villages. Next one.
Next.
The same way. There's another town, the Cochrane Township. So these are the mosques in the town, Karen state. Recently, they targeted with artillery attacks. Next one. This is the last slide. Is another mosque in the corporate township, which has been attacked and attack and used military, all this. So in order to sum up all the slide which I just mentioned, Muslim populations are living in a very small population in nationwide, small groups in many places. So it will be very easier for them to target with using those Mabata groups. So you may know about that. The Mabata groups have been very active during the 2012 to 13, 15, like that. But as soon as the revolution started, these Mabata groups are giving the military training, and they've been conducting so many crimes, heinous crimes. They have been involved in gruesome killing of civilians in Zagain and many other areas. So now the election has been announced on in August. So we have in VHN we have a monitoring team on hate speech. What we have been monitoring is the hate speech has been continuing on the Muslim community, but as soon as they announced the election, the anti-Muslim hate speech has been sharply increased. And USDP party president also met with those Mawata and Pusoti. They call new name is Pusoti, who militias, extremist militias. The moment he met with these people, and after a few days, the anti-Muslim rallies has been started, anti-Muslim protest has been taking place some places, and online Facebook activities has been sharply increased. So we've been monitoring on documenting them. So more than two, 3 times the social media activities are now increased. So what is indicating is that before the election comes, our situation that they might target more Muslim communities. And this has been the military trying their best to divert the attention from the public, which they have been portraying that this revolution is because of the Muslims and Christians, they want to divide the Buddhist community. So that they try to create this narrative. But people are clever, they don't buy in that. But in order to enforce this ideology, they might create more violence and more problems. So Muslim populations are already vulnerable. Going as a war situation now. So I don't think this is we need to do something, international community need to do something in order to protect this vulnerable community. And I'll end here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I'm now going to turn to Dr. Green, who helped put together the report. So, we've seen these sort of scapegoating of Muslim communities and the fear-mongering happening. Jalmin showed us some of the documentation. I know in the publication it's included the fear of extinction of the race. I read some quotes. Could you tell us, or talk about how authoritarian regimes have manufactured this threat, and then why is the strategy effective? How does this manipulation work? And as part of that, I'd love to hear more about how this is not some sudden explosion of violence, but could you speak to how it's been a sustained, systematic approach over the decades?
Sure, thanks, Rachel. With the scapegoating, regimes tend to scapegoat segments of their populations during times of crisis, or when a minority population stands in the way of what they perceive as their most urgent military and political objectives. So if we look at the history of the military regimes in Burma, we see this pattern of creating internal enemies to quiet dissent, to justify military rule, and to ensure regime survival during really a wide variety of crises, whether that's economic crisis or natural disasters, military and secessionist threats, or pro-democracy uprisings. And this begins really as early as the socialist regime of Nguyen in the late 1950s, 1960s, where communists and immigrants, Chinese, people of South Asian descent, were really the first internal enemies created by the regime, the Revolutionary Council government. And this is really the moment where the military, the Tatmadaw, develops this strategy, something that they called, and I'll quote, stimulating the religious nerves of the Buddhist majority by casting people as threats to Buddhism. And they did this through a propaganda pamphlet. This was in 1959. So this is really way back in their history. And many of these original internal enemies were deported, but in that, what Neiman called a campaign of Burmanization, other religious minorities were culturally repressed, religiously repressed, were removed from positions of local regional power, even forced to marry Buddhist men during that campaign. So fairly quickly, and certainly by the 1970s, religious minorities, specifically Muslims, specifically the Rohingya, became the preferred scapegoat for the regime. And this happened amidst economic crisis and military secessionist crisis. A scholar, Azim Ibrahim, calls the Rohingya a quote, convenient target of choice, and just points out, they were unarmed, they were ethnically easy to identify, they spoke a non-Burmese language, and they were Muslims in a country that was 90% Buddhist. So by 1978, we see this pattern, this strategy that's really applied first to the Rohingya of restricting access to citizenship, classifying them as foreigners, and then institutionalizing that status through registration campaigns and using their imposed statelessness to expel them. And this institutionalized discrimination then starts to spread to the military, and Sean mentioned this, to the civil service, where Muslims are, prohibited from rising in the ranks of the military, prohibited then from joining the military, pushed out of civil service positions and government positions. So it was a strategy that the government would then go on to employ again and again, and which eventually expanded to encompass Muslims and religious minorities throughout Burma. Again, primarily during times of crisis for the ruling regime. So if we look at Burma's history from that point on, from the 1980s on, we can map surges of state-led anti-Muslim violence and action onto various crises. And Sean mentioned a number of these. You have the 1988 pro-democracy uprisings, the military coup that brings the SLORC into power. The very next year, the military publishes this fear of extinction of the race in 1989. And this was really a propaganda booklet focused on establishing Muslims as an existential threat to the nation and urging people to take action steps to subordinate the Muslim population by destroying their economic foundations, isolating them socially, ending marriages between Muslim men and Buddhist women, and suppressing their religious traditions. So in this moment of political and national crisis, the Tatmadaw is trying to rally people around these ideas of religious and racial purity and organize discrimination against Muslims through an ultra-nationalist, exclusive variant of Theravada Buddhism. And it's, doing this by telling people that they are in danger of being utterly destroyed by Muslim minorities and by Islam. And this, biological, Rachel mentioned the combining of religion and ethnicity and race and nationalism. This is really critical when we study genocide, this idea that a population has an identity that can be passed on to children. And you see this in the book's real focus on ending intermarriage. And I'll just read a quick quote from the first booklet, and it says on intermarriage, quote, "It would be sad if 500 Myanmar Buddhist sons were killed on the battlefield, but 500 Myanmar mothers can still give birth to 500 more sons. But if 500 Myanmar women get married wrongly, the country will feel like it will be infected with a disease in the future." So, this pattern continues on and on. The Saffron Revolution, the political crisis, and we just see it repeating. And by creating crises that required a strong government capable of protecting the Buddhist faith, the Tatmadaw was trying to solve its most urgent political problem, which was remaining in power. So I argue in the report that it's really regime survival. And while this strategy of scapegoating doesn't work perfectly, there's obviously a tremendous amount of opposition to military rule in Burma. It does provide the pretext for military regimes to be in power, the justification for staying in power, and it mobilizes those who are drawn to extreme ethno-religious narratives of Buddhist nationalism, and often convinces people who are less enthusiastic about that to at least stand by and accept or tolerate discrimination and violence against minorities. And that's also a very, very important part of the genocidal process. And you asked, and I'll try to wrap up here, you asked why it's been as effective as it has. And I think it's in part the way that the Tatmadaw and the military regimes have harnessed the power of the Buddhist faith, of the Sangha and the monkhun, who are tremendously respected in Burma and Burmese society. And they've linked their anti-Islamic propaganda narratives about the survival of the Buddhist faith and Buddhist identity. So if you look at the methods, and it really is incredible that in 2008, they publish a book that's so blatantly titled Methods to Protect Against the Extinction of the Race, 17 methods to remove Muslims from Burma. But these methods cover an incredibly wide expanse of society. So the methods cover spreading these narratives in schools, in religious Sunday schools, by monks, within communities, from community businesses and business owners. And then they're supported by the formal institutionalized discrimination, like altered government censuses and the removal of citizenship, restrictions on freedoms of movement, education, employment, banning Muslims from the military and civil service, restricting religious freedoms, and then the race and religion protection laws, which first were advocated in this booklet in 2008. And all of this happens, is put in place over several decades in a time of national crisis, when in a portion of that time, the society was fairly closed to things like external international news outlets. And you can understand why it becomes a very powerful, entrenched narrative. So, as far as how we should understand or respond genocides that develop over a long period of time, I think the answer is actually to come back to the original definition of the word genocide, and this is where I'll end, and just focus on understanding genocide as a process. I think genocide is actually never an explosion of violence without any preceding process or warning signs. Even in a case like Rwanda, where the rate of killing was tremendously fast once it started, you had decades of social fragmentation, colonial-driven hardening of identities, massacres, propaganda, dehumanizing Tutsis, and on and on. And in the months just before April 1994, the American CIA wrote a report estimating that 500,000 people would likely die if conflict broke out in Rwanda. They underestimated. But genocide is a process. So when Raphael Lemkin, who coined the word genocide, first published his word in his 1944 book, Axis Rule in Occupied Europe, he defined genocide as this, and I'll actually read his definition. He said, quote, "Genocide does not necessarily mean the immediate destruction of a nation, except when accomplished by mass killing of all members of a nation. Genocide is intended rather to signify a coordinated plan of different actions aiming at the destruction of essential foundations of the life of national groups, with the aim of annihilating the groups themselves." And he goes on to say the objectives of such a plan would be disintegration of political and social institutions, of culture, language, national feelings, religion, and the economic existence of national groups, and the destruction of the personal security, liberty, health, dignity, and even the lives of the individuals belonging to such a group. So Lemkin saw physical killing really as the culmination, as the end point of genocide, which is really a process of targeting groups for destruction. And that's why, genocide scholar Mark Levine has written, the study of genocide is 9 parts that of genocidal process and only 1 part that of a particular outcome. So I think what's encouraging about this, if there is anything encouraging about the many cases in history that we've studied, is that we have learned quite a bit about the general ways that genocides tend to develop. And while each case has its own historical specificity, they share these commonalities in how they unfold, how they escalate, and how populations are mobilized to tolerate discrimination and eventually to kill. So studying those patterns allows us to identify components of the genocidal process. We know that before a group can destroy another group, perpetrators have to classify a target group. They have to define who's included in that target group. They have to start to isolate them from society, which they usually do through propaganda and narratives of existential threat. And they have to start being able to control their movements so they can access them, so they can round them up. So we begin to see all of these things, these freedom of movement taken away, passports, identity, citizenship revoked, members rounded up and forced into camps, which is the plight now of the Rohingya who have survived in Rakhine State. So we can recognize these patterns that signal the genocidal process is underway, and we have strategies to interrupt that process. What's so crucial for the international community and for regional powers is to understand that our best chance of intervening in genocide is to interrupt the process before widespread killing starts, because once that happens, our options to intervene become significantly more limited. So the options to save life become more limited. So that's why it's so crucial to understand genocide as a long unfolding process and to understand what's happening right now in Burma to Muslim minorities as an ongoing, unfolding genocidal process so that we can take effective and immediate steps to interrupt the process and to save lives.
Thank you, Dr. Green. That was very informative. And really help us understand the patterns in the whole context. Tumkin, I know you have the lived experience as a Rohingya person, and that the Rohingya represent 30% of the Burma Muslim population. And I'm wondering if you could speak to the ways that the Rohingya have been a testing ground for policies now targeting the rest of the remaining 70% of the Muslims who lack citizenship. And after you tackle that question, I'm curious about what steps must be taken for revolutionary groups and emerging federal structures. What steps can we take so that we can reject this sort of anti-Muslim narrative and build really a truly inclusive?
Sure. First of all, thank you for doing a wonderful job for 5 years work. This is incredible because, as we all know, as a Rohingya myself, we are struggling our own survival, and when we are facing genocide, to be honest, we can't pay attention to others. Unfortunately, we are. So this is a great job for other minorities in other parts of Burma. It's really great honor to speak on behalf of them here together with Joey, because we all are together struggling and facing crimes against humanity, war crimes, looking for the Rohingya genocide. So one thing we need to look at why Rohingyas are targeted. This is a good example to put. For example, this is what General Ne Win Win 1962. He coup power. He saw Rohingyas political representation. Rohingya have land and other things. As soon as he came to power, he stripped up our ethnic broadcasting program. He stripped up our Rohingya cultural event in Rangoon University. Then he jumping on. When he come, my mother's grandfather was the first judge in Northern Arakan, and my paternal grandfather was a member of parliament, and I was not able to get citizenship. You can see why. My dear father did government service more than 20 years. So it's 1962 I'm talking about. I started from that time. So when I was born in 1981, after that, because of 82 law, I couldn't get a citizenship. Because why? This is very systematic. Their intention to get rid of Rohingya first, and they move one after another. So that is how we are faced. We are seeing the situation of other Muslims, minorities in Burma. They have successful Rohingya people to get rid of. As you know, 3 million Rohingya population. Now 500,000 Rohingya remain in Burma. Until today, they are facing genocide. This is what the situation. So if you picture out where we are now, this is a kind of the seed done by General Nehru, anti-Muslim agenda. And my father told me one meeting, and then he saw many Muslims or officers and that in Sitwe, and then he said, why so many colors, so many Muslims are, aliens are here in this position? You can rid of them. As soon as he left from this meeting, after a few days, many Rohingya Muslims will get rid of the position. This is one thing I heard. There are so many things. So the agenda is, that is the thing still now going on, and that's why they success on Rohingya. So now they will move to other minorities. 2017 they are successful. So now, where other minorities are there, the same agenda they doing, current military regime, unfinished business actually, they are going to finish it, naming agenda for the military. So now, this time is different. After the coup, we have seen solidarity with other all resistance groups. We all are working ahead. Our common enemy is Burmese military. So, on that case, we need to look at very clearly what NUG and other resistance groups concern on this, and is needed from, for example, National Unity Government. They mentioned about 1982 citizenship law to get rid of. Still now, they haven't done yet. Instead, what they said, we are just thinking, and we have to look at after the win, we will discuss. So this is a kind of way, even though military, we are fighting on, why this naming agenda is still there. Naming law is still exists. So other resistance group, they all have to come up with a stronger things that to show solidarity. When we talk about inclusive future federal union, we all want equal rights. We all want to live peacefully side by side with all religious groups in Burma. This is what Burma looks like, many diverse groups. So I bit worry, inclusive future federal union, there is much more things need to be learned. We need to take a lesson from here. Right? After 1988 uprising, many people follow saying that when democracy comes, brother, everything will be fine. Even Dawn San Suu Kyi told me with her own words to me, you all are facing basic human rights. When democracy comes, everything will be fine. So we should not repeat. International community should not be falling on that trap. Again, we must advocate that current revolutionary groups or resistance groups, of course we are together with them, but they must also show that we have all fundamental rights and inclusive future federal union Burma, what we are heading to. They need to show practically by how we talking to NUG president or ministry or whatever, they can say that this is, even though we are not practically in the government now, but in Burma now, president can do, president order is a law. From now on to the 1982 citizenship law will not be. We have abolished this law. This kind of thing, they could do that, but they haven't done that. So what I'm talking is 1988, after everyone, international community, we all say tripartite dialogue. And, like democracy come, everything gonna be fine. But nobody have paying attention what's happened to other minorities, except Aung San Suu Kyi, when she released, everything would be fine. But after 2011, what we have suffered, all have seen that the same thing. Just only Rangoon and Naypyidaw, some reform we have seen. All other minorities, as you know, Burmese, Muslim, Rohingya, Shin, Kashin, Karen, and Shan, they all face the same. So we must see some practical action when we talk about inclusive future federal union. That's message need to get to them, and we have to give them a stronger, recommendation. We want international community that we want to see from Revolutionary Group and NUG. They are a stronger solidarity, acceptance of other minorities and all religious groups. Instead, they fight in military. They cannot follow, they cannot fall on naming 50 years before those kind of law. They still should not accept. So that is what we will see, that genuine. Whenever we talk in Burma, we have to put a big one word: genuine future federal union Burma. Stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keegan. I'm going to pause our panelists for just a few minutes and invite folks, if you are online, I know there's a lot of you online, I think there's at least almost 20 people online. So send us your questions in the chat, and Myra will let me know what they are. And we will also pause for a minute just to take some of the questions from the room.
Yes.
Please, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Butler with Faith and Democracy. And I was really interested in this last point that the international community focused on what we need for democracy, but sort of focused on it in a superficial way, not noticing the plight of minority groups and thinking, oh, it's as simple as releasing Aung San Suu Kyi prison. So, and I'm a newcomer to this issue, I'll admit, but I guess I would love to know more about why that happened and why the international community, even in that process, sort of overlooked this long history that started even decades before of oppression of Rohingya and marginalization. So I'd love to hear more about that and what they could have, should have done.
Yeah. Who'd like to take this question?
Yeah.
John?
I can go a little back to our independence movement. So any country that faced colonization, one of the driving forces in anti-colonization is nationalism. But when a nation gets independence, that nationalism needs to divert to nation building, which never happened in Burma. We went to nation dividing based on ethno-national, religious-based ethno-nationalism. So this is one of the main root cause. Very unfortunately, we have experienced in our country. We never had any moment that, okay, yes, this is all our brother, sister, we are being one nation, we live. How can we make sure that everyone will be prosper from this country and we'll be stronger, we'll be better? Never happened like that. Always one ethnic groups dominate the country and make sure that every ethnicity, every group become cripples and dominated by that. So, but it never happened because other ethnic groups have also determination. They are very strong as well. So they can never do this. The nation continuously going on. one of the longest civil war in the world is Burma, 80 years now. Right? So the mindset is because for me and Gotundian, we always have suspicious when somebody can tell us that, yeah, when this military gone, everything will be okay. You can see that during the NLD government, the genocide was take place. Yeah, extinction of the community was take place. Mass killing, mass atrocities happened, and that was supported by the parliament as well. Military operation was voted by the parliament. Right? So this is how military. Everyone understands what this military can do. There, everyone has idea. Yet they give this vote. No one raised any questions. So that kind of ideology exists in Burma. That when it comes to nationalism, we forget our code of conduct. We forget our ethics. We forget. That is the problem with the Burma majority who hold the Burma elite class who control the power, right, in the military, in the government. So they use Rohingya issues as a necessity for example, I said, for Muslim community especially, when a Muslim community is vulnerable, they want to use this Muslim community as a necessity for them to gain some kind of policy, to kind of achievement in the policy. They use both ways, positive and negative way, good and bad way. For example, in order to get proof or support from the international, now they propose that we will have a Rohingya policy paper, we have a Rohingya friendly thing, we give position to. But what really impact on Rohingya? Are the Rohingya stopped leaving Burma? No. Until today, we are facing problems. This is what every civil society in Burma really understand about that. Right? And also, on the other side, they use Rohingya in Muslim issues in order to make sure that the Burmese population will support them. We feel that we need military in power, otherwise this person will take over country. So every aspect of the political turnaround, they use Muslim as a scapegoat. And that has been very successful for them. Every government, every military regime has been using this. So even it will not surprise me in coming democratic government will use this again. Right? That has been very easy for them to use.
And I think I'd just love to add, I think from the international perspective, I think one thing that is so easy to forget is that when we look at the regime types that are actually at the highest level of risk of committing genocide, it's actually not dictatorships who are usually so in control of society that they've managed a monopoly on the use of violence. It's actually autocracies who are in the process of transitioning from authoritarian regimes to democracies. And the top when Burma has had these moments of democratic transition, it really happened under duress, almost by force upon the military regimes, and often were nominal, and so I think what the international community oftentimes does is it accepts this, well, we're democratizing. It says, okay, well, we'll give you a chance to do that, but doesn't necessarily look at the strength of the institutions underpinning that democracy and whether or not those are truly democratic, whether or not they're truly inclusive with space for the diverse voices in the country.
Simon.
Hi, I am Simon Gillis, I'm an international campaign for the Rohingya. Welcome back to DC. Good friends. We're working very hard in DC as well to influence US policy, with the administration and with Congress, particularly, most notably with the Burma Genocide Accountability and Protection Act. And what kind of messages do you want to get across to the US government, both administration and Congress? And what specific responses do you want to see from the US government?
First thing, this is very important. What we can see in Burma, this election need to be should not be support. Illegal regime is doing illegal election. And secondly, what humanitarian aid will come. We, of course, Rohingya people in a camp, and we welcome 60 million in new conference, but there's still other sides of Burma, like Shamai and Thai border, a lot of humanitarian aid cuts. That humanitarian aid cuts need to be increased, very important. Secondly, for whatever the military is continuing airstrike and killings, some civilians, all the parts of Burma, including Rakhine State, that pressure and global south involved we needed. For the Rohingya, that military blockade, all the many parts of the Rakhine State that need to be lifted, and of course, protection in Arkanami also, their atrocities. They need to must put maximum pressure and supporting the justice and accountability forefront where the people of Burma are facing. Those are very important.
Well, there are series of asking what you want from the US, but as understanding, bear in mind that the political atmosphere and changing, landscape. What I want to appeal to the people of America, people in US has been a lot supportive to our cause in Burma, taxpayers, right, and philanthropists and foundations, organizations. We are long-standing friends with us, and also in policymakers, people, representatives, senators, congressmen, and all these people in Burma, people in US has been very friendly with us and supportive to Burma, to our minority cause in Burma. I understand that one of the key situations we are facing now is the revolution. The military has been desperate to be the combinations, to get the support, to get the policy, but at the same time, this military is very cunning. What they're doing is now they are using propaganda that if this military institution collapses, that will be create mayhem of security threat for the neighboring countries. That will also impact the US interest in many, but actually that's not true. So in order to say that, how much military control, there's a first question. So we say that when they say that, the military saying that the military institution will collapse, that will be dangerous, but how much they controlling? They are controlling very minimum. They have just Manly to Rangoon, that region they are controlling. But the rest they have lost. And show me any criminal activities are going on in those areas. But criminal activities are going on where they control them, where they control the area where they control, where their allies are controlling. And that's what the military has been selling this idea to the neighboring countries. And I'm worried that US is also start influencing this kind of idea. This military should not collapse. But the most important thing is, what we are asking is, revolution groups are also not trying to collapse or trying to kill everyone in the military. No. What we are asking is, this military need to go back to the barracks. Civilian government need to control. There must be another civilian government who elected by the people by democratic norms and democratic process. And there must be accountability. Those who kill and commit genocide must not become leader of the country. They must be behind bars. There must be some accountability and transitional justice must happen. This is the most important key message we want to give here.
I'm going to take one online question, and I'll come to one more question in the room. So over the past 2 to 3 years, the Tatmadaw has lost control of the majority of the country, about now to control only 30 to 40% of the country. I think we heard even less this morning, less than that, leading to expressions of autonomy by other ethnicities. What are the prediction of the panel of this situation? Will we see the breakup of Burma? Please.
couldn't. I mean, you can see that one of the what we observe from the ethnic groups operating in Burma, you will see that there are different ethnic groups, more than 20, 30 armed groups exist in Burma. And you see also that their collaboration is continuing. For example, if you go to one ethnic land, you will find other ethnic groups, armed groups also operating there. But they are operating under their control. And what is mean is each and every ethnic group of armed ethnic groups of Burma understand their integrity in their territory. They are not taking over anyone's. Even though there is some dispute, we may see small skirmish clash. That's normal happen, but you don't see major fights, major war break out between the ethnic groups, which has been many decades. They've been with arms more than 40, 50 years. These people are having arms and groups and operating this area. They never fight each other. Why should they fight now? Because the military has been selling this idea a lot. If military institution is collapsed, and this arms group and this, there will be chaos in Burma. But that's not true. Look at the southern Burma. You will find several ethnic arms groups operating in the area. And you will find some ethnic groups come from north as well. But what they're doing is they're under the command of those who are owner or landowners of that area. Right? They don't overstep other people. And in politically as well. When we are discussing, for example, we are not part of the NUCC, but still you can see that what's happening in NUCC. There are ethnic group, there are strike group, there are major, all collaborating. And I will be going to attending several meetings as well with other ethnic groups and other arms groups as well. Those who are stakeholders, we are talking to each other, and we are discussing each other all the time. And we also have sharing each other disagreements sometimes in very, very constructive way. So we help each other how to solve the problem. So I think what we are seeing, there is concern about, of course, there will be concern about what's going on, what's happened, but rest assured that the most important thing is we need to make sure that the military go back to the barracks, the civilian government take over, and the democratic norms and we implement them.
As one point, before barracks they go, they should have a constitution which everyone acceptable for all ethnic groups.
All inclusive.
All, because Burma problem is a constitutional problem. This came from 1950s because of constitutional crisis. And that's from the military institution. That is the problem. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Simon Lewis. I'm a reporter with Reuters. Used to be based in Yangon for a while, but I'm now here in DC. It's a little bit of a follow-up from Simon's question. I'm wondering whether you guys, Join and Duncan, have meetings with the Trump White House or State Department while you're here in DC, and whether they're sort of engaging with you on this stuff. Particularly interested because obviously in the previous Trump administration, they declined to determine a genocide. Secretary Blinken then did that. So I'm interested to know whether the current officials who are working on Burma and Myanmar sort of support the genocide determination and have given you any reassurances of that. And sort of connected, there are obviously cuts to USAID, or USAID has been dismantled, but there's also cuts to other programs on Burma. I'm wondering if there's anything that you guys have visibility on where you can say, particularly on accountability measures, and I think also on humanitarian aid in the camps, how are this administration's changes to foreign aid affecting the Rohingya and potentially exacerbating some of the problems you've talked about?
One thing is, thanks for your question. I don't know, the government shut down, right? So whether we can go or not. Anyway, then we have an appointment.
There's still some people working at least, so yeah, good point.
So we'll have some meetings, State Department, but we'll see how tomorrow we go. And another thing is, regarding on genocide declaration, of course, we thanks to previous government, That is a big recognition what's happened to the Rohingya. But it doesn't mean that when you recognize, you just need to, we have to see much more protection, much more actions followed by that determination. We have not seen much because Rohingyas are thrown by the Indian government at the high sea. What's happened last few months. And many Rohingyas in other parts of the war facing serious, crisis at detention camps and, floated at the high sea and, somewhere even, uh, somewhere even pushed out. So as a U.S. been leading for the human rights for a long time, but we believe this current government uh, that as a determination has been done, still Trump administration should do much more. We appreciate 60 million support for the 60 million for the Rohingya in the camps, but it's not enough. Other minorities in Burma and people in Rakhine State facing total block of humanitarian aid. Much, much more need to be done. Unfortunately, the other side of also justice and accountability. When we file Argentina case, we have very support from Global Criminal Justice Department in the last time. So that department is not there anymore. This is such a backlog. So whenever we talk about Burma, justice and accountability are at the forefront line. For Argentina case, we have a lot of support, previous Global Criminal Justice Department that will help to get a arrest warrant we had just this year in February. So one justice we talk is not only for the Rohingya, for all the people of Burma. Our common enemy is Burmese military, who were this military committing war crimes, crimes against humanity for many decades, other minorities like Karen, Kachin, Shan, and other parts of the Burma. But there is no arrest warrant for anyone, anytime in the past. So this is the time. So this implementing this arrest warrant and also supporting other justice, that is very important. And we would like to see, we know that internationally there is any other Ukraine and Palestine, the issues are going on, but Burma, the whole country, one community is facing genocide, other minorities and other people are facing war crimes and crimes against humanity. We must not forget the people of Burma fighting against this brutal regime every day, risking their lives. Many young people are losing their lives. But like the US has been leading a key role for the democracy and human rights for Burma, must not be forgotten. Much, much more need to be done.
If I may add something, sorry, it depends on the different government have different priorities and agenda, but there are something that for a big five nations for our country, which a free world, say, right? It is still free, but free world countries need to be. That's one of the responsibility to maintain that kind of support to the become a voice champion for the human rights, for the for the freedom. But at the same time, it is a very good opportunity for current administrations to champion the Rohingya situation, which has been they have been championing so many peace deals among the geopolitically even around the world, like Pakistan, India situation, and Southeast Asia situation. Why not Rohingya situation will be one of the main items for them to earn or very international recognition or any award, which kind of some countries are nominating the current administration for the Nobel Peace Prize. But why not? Rohingya situation is being used one for this, and Burma situation will be used for this, or 55 million people nobody knows when their time will be come, and something drones or fighter jet will drop the bombs and kill the family. That is alive in Burma, right? If it had happened in other part of the world, you will see in the headlines, and a lot of noises will come up. But in Burma, every day we see that, we experience that they bomb the school, bomb the children, bomb the civilian, and they kill their families, civilian, in a gruesome way. So why can't this, and not addressing this issue has also another implication that will go to the neighboring countries, and that can spread, that become a big issue for the region. So the big country like America, like, who has been supporting a lot on the neighboring countries and our neighboring countries as well. So the American interests are also a lot in Burma. Why don't American government take initiative to solve this problem, stand up with the Bangladesh government and find some way for the Rohingya repatriation with dignified, with full of their human rights and peace. And then all those find the solution for what's happening in Burma, the whole nation with mass killing. And that doesn't mean going talk to the military and give them what they want. It is mean that support the people, the public, who's fighting against the military, who is losing the battle, who is desperately losing the battle, which they have left dozens of fighter jets, which has been repeatedly used in killing people. That's all they have. So why don't we end full stop that and get something, recommendation for the administration for something very insignificant. 80 years of civil war will end by this administration. That will be great, I think.
And this is still very timely, given that the administration right now is finally getting down to reviewing policy on Burma.
Yeah.
And so, we've noted in our meetings with the Vice President's office is they stress a couple of things. One, they stress, it's America first, U.S. interests, foreign policy now. But number two, again, they talk about, well, they say President Trump is a peacemaker. So that's definitely something to explore.
Yeah.
And I think what was very interesting about the 60 million that was pledged by the U.S. This week for the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, it comes with it a condition that the government of Bangladesh allow for greater access to livelihood and to jobs for Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. And that's a notable shifting of pressure on the Bangladesh government by the U.S. And again, it's in line with what the U.S. does in terms of putting pressure on this administration, in terms of putting pressure on countries.
Thanks very much, Simon. I know we are coming to a conclusion at this time. We also want to highlight that there is very effective cross-border aid happening and run by local NGOs. If anyone's interested in hearing more about that, have that information. There are many, many communities on the ground getting support to their communities, and that is really essential that everyone understand that piece as well. I just want to thank Dr. Green for helping with this report, Xiao Wen for the brilliance behind it, and the Burma Human Rights Network, and Tun Kin for being with us today. We thank Myra Dagapal, who works at UUSC and helped brought us all together, and all of her work behind the scenes. And thank you to all of you, and let us know if you have follow-up. Xiaowen, where can we find the report?
Yeah, it's already on our website now, and we have a link and press release, and all the codes are there. So please go to the www.bhrn.org.uk.
Yes, so please go to the Burma Human Rights Network's website in the UK to get this report and share it widely within your networks. Thank you all again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.